Welcome to Letting Go of Her podcast, where we are learning to let go of all of our past identities and finding our identity in Christ. I, your host, Maria Lopez, will take you on my faithful walk and journey into finding my true identity in Christ. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Letting Go of Her podcast. Before we get started, I need to kind of correct myself over something that I said last week during the cycle breaker episode. I had quoted a scripture and I got it 100% wrong. The scripture was actually in the book of Numbers. It is Numbers 6:24 through 26, because I was talking about the lyrics of the song The Blessings, and I was like, oh, it's in Deuteronomy or in Exodus, and turns out no, it was actually in Numbers. So I mean, I could have opened up my Bible and quoted it correctly, but I I didn't. And this wouldn't be a true and raw podcast, right? If I didn't make mistakes. Like I said, I'm not the best at memorizing scripture. I know what's in the Bible, but I don't know where to find it just yet. I do plan, or I do hope, or I do pray that one day I will be able to, memorize it and be able to splur out scripture um, like it's, like it's second nature for me. But I'm not there yet. But one day. Okay. But anyways, let's get into today's topic. If I am being honest, I have been down in the dumps lately. Like I have just been feeling low. And at first I thought, I was like, okay, maybe it's like cuz I'm going to get my period, because we all go through that week where like it's just we hate life, we hate everyone. Or at least, some months it can get like that. So I was like, okay, maybe it's because I'm going to start my period. And then I got my period. And then I was like, okay, maybe I feel this way because I'm on my period, right? Like once it's over, I'll be fine. But here we are, almost 2 weeks after. I'm still feeling just off. I don't want to say off, but I'm feeling really low and really down right now. And I've kind of been just like praying about it all day because I'm like, Lord, I know that I can't be the only one feeling this way right now. So I literally just before I started recording this, I prayed. I'm like, let whatever it is that you need me to hear, but also what you need other people to hear, just kind of come out of me, right? So, yeah, I've just I've been feeling down in the dumps, and if I'm being 100% honest, it's like based on my appearance and based on the way that I look and the way that I think I look. So, kind of backtracking a little bit, I first attempted to go to therapy when I was 22 years old. And I'm going to say attempt because I did go. I went for a few sessions. I even went to two different therapists. And to be honest, at that point in my life, I just wasn't mature enough to understand what therapy meant. I went to therapy thinking, all right, I'm going to go and like tell you all of my problems and everything that's going on, and you're going to give me solutions on how to fix them. I didn't realize at the time that going to therapy meant that, yes, I'm going to, talk about all my problems and all my issues and everything that's going on, but they weren't going to tell me how to fix it. I had to figure that out on my own. And I remember with the second therapist that I was with, because the first one, I didn't really vibe and connect. She was extremely sympathetic, and it almost just felt like disingenuine. Like it didn't feel like real. Like it felt like she was saying, oh, I'm so sorry, just because she felt that she needed to say it. I don't know it. But anyway, so I ended up switching therapist, and I saw someone else, and this therapist said, okay, the reason why you feel this way is because you have no self-esteem. And I remember just like being extremely like just I was offended. And I was like, okay. And I don't really think I talked much after that. And then after that, I quit therapy altogether. But now, where I am today, 11 years later, after attempting to go to therapy that first time. What I have been learning, or what I've learned recently, is did you know that nowhere in the Bible does it talk about self esteem? And nowhere in the Bible does it say to love yourself. In the Bible, it says, rule number one, to love God above everything else. And number two, to love others as you love yourself. In today's world, just scrolling through social media, it's all about self love and self esteem and self reflection, which, in a sense, that stuff isn't necessarily completely wrong. But what this does is it turns ourselves into idols of ourselves. And this is kind of a little bit of what I have been struggling with. I know that I don't have much self worth. And I don't see myself highly. I don't see myself as the queen that the Lord has made me to be. I don't. Like, I don't. I still believe that I am unworthy, and I still believe that I am unlovable. And I can't comprehend that me, like little old me, can be, one of the holy of the holies. Like, I can't comprehend that. That's just something that's like, wait, like, why? Like, why me? Why have you chosen me? Um, and this is something that I'm struggling with, like, just so much lately. Ugh, I really hope that this can come across, as the way that I want it to sound. But um we are made in the image of God. And when I look at myself, I don't see that. Like, when I look at myself, I am like picking at every single one of my flaws. Like, I have a pimple here. I have wrinkles here. I have this here. Look at my uneven skin tone. Look at, the extra weight that I'm carrying here. Look at this. Look at that. Like, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm just like pointing out at every single one of my flaws. But if I am made in the image of God, doesn't that mean that I am picking at God Himself? And it's like, if we take a second to think about it, right? Because I don't think that sometimes we make the connection. At least for me, all these years, I've never made the connection. I've never made the connection that every time I'm criticizing myself, every time that I'm being hard on myself, like just based on appearance, I am being hard and critical of God's work. Like, God made me to look this way, and He made me this way for a reason, for His purpose, to be able to glorify Him. And yet somehow I'm being judgmental of it, and somehow I'm being critical of it. And I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to look at myself in the mirror and be like, wow, this is the work of God. Like, how amazing is this? I don't I don't know how to do that mind shift and change the way that I see myself, because I've been really just really convicted lately, where it's like I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I am criticizing what God has made. And who am I? Literally, who am I to criticize His creation? Because I am His creation. I want to love myself as much as God loves me. And I don't know how to do that. And I can go as far as just blaming the trauma and blaming, whatever in the past, and just picking at everything. Like, I can do that. But at the end of the day, like, this is me. And you know, it's me allowing God to be able to make that change in my heart. And it honestly, like, it saddens me just to know that, like, I don't see myself that way. Like, that I still see myself as just unworthy and unlovable. And I don't want to see myself that way anymore, right? Like, I am chosen. I am his daughter. I am a queen. Like, I want to just see myself the way that God sees me. And um I mean, I want to say that I hope I'm not the only one struggling with this, but at the same time, I hope that no one else is struggling with this, because it's not a fun place to be. I know that appearance and just outward appearance and beauty and everything like that, like, beauty isn't defined on what you look like according to God. That's not what beautiful means. That's what the world tells us beautiful means, right? The world tells us that beautiful means, I don't know, thin and I don't know, it always changes, right? Whatever it is. There was one point where we all had to look a certain way, and now there's another point where we have to look this way and whatever. And that's constantly changing, and that's, a whole pressure all on its own. And I don't want to be a part of that. And I don't I don't want to be looking at other women, or looking or scrolling through social media and comparing myself and thinking, like, I need to look like this and I need to look like that, like that. I don't want any of that. And honestly, I don't want people to look at me that way. Like, I don't want people to see me and be like, oh wow, she's beautiful, or oh wow, she's not beautiful. I don't want that to come out of me. What I want when people see me is Jesus, just pouring out of me. Like, what I want when people see me, I want them to say, like, wow, she really loves Jesus. And, like, wow, she's really living her life for the Lord. And just like the Holy Spirit, like, overflowing out of me. Like, when people see me, I want them to be so attracted to me, not because of what I look like, but because I have the peace and the joy that only the Lord can give. That's what I want. That's my prayer. That is my goal. I want people to be attracted to me because I have something that they want. And that's not because of how I look or how I dress, or, what designer this or that I have. I don't know. I don't know anything designer, but I don't want people to envy me because of that. I want them to want to get to know me, because the love of God is just pouring out of me. But I also know that in order to have this, I need to believe it myself. And even though I know that I am his daughter, and even though I know that he loves me, and even though I know that he created me, some days, like I've been feeling the last couple of weeks, I still don't see it. And I still don't believe it. And I am struggling with that, because I look at myself in the mirror and I am picking at this and picking at that and picking at this. And really, what I'm doing is criticizing the work of the Lord. And I am judging the Lord. And I'm saying, Lord, you could have done better, when really you couldn't have. Just a small side note. um, I'm taking longer pauses um, as I'm recording each little segment here, because last time, or and during one of the most recent therapy sessions that I had, my therapist had said, like, you need to feel your feelings. Like, you can't suppress them anymore, because they're going to come back, and they're going to come out in the wrong ways. She's like, so whenever you feel, anger or sadness or whatever, like give yourself a moment to feel it. And then once you're just like fine and calm and collected, then you can move on. And I told her, I was like, I can't do that. Like I'm a mom. If I try and sit and like feel sad for like 5 minutes or 30 seconds, I'm like, one of my kids want something or one of my kids needs something else. And I'm like, and I don't have time. I'm like, how am I supposed to feel my feelings and not like suppress them if like someone needs me? Like I can't be sad and getting a snack for my kid. Like I can't be bawling my eyes out and getting a snack for my kid. Like it just doesn't work that way. And so she said, okay, well, then give yourself time in the day, like later in the day when maybe they're in bed or, you can step away for a second to allow yourself to feel. And so all day today, like I was just thinking about what I was going to talk about in this podcast, and I was thinking about just like what am I going to say and how do I want to say it? So obviously, as I'm thinking these things, like I'm feeling sad because I'm like, man, like I don't want to talk about this. Like I don't want to admit that this is what I'm doing in my feelings. I'm like, but I have to, right? In order for me to be able to process all of this, I kind of need to talk about it out, out loud. Um, and so I just kept thinking, like, okay, when they go to bed, I'm gonna go into the room and cry, and I'm gonna let it all out. So they're all, they're in bed right now. I'm in the spare bedroom. I'm recording this podcast, and after everything that I say, I'm just crying, and I'm giving myself the moment to just feel these feelings that I'm feeling because I feel that for the past couple of weeks, I have been just kind of bottling them all up. Like, no, I'll think about it later and I'll think about it later. But I think right now I'm at the point where it's like, no, like you really have to sit down and feel this, right? And stop just like feeling sorry for yourself and just stop like stop trying to think that this isn't important because it is. I I want to stop being mean to myself because being mean to myself means that I'm being mean to the Lord. And I don't want to do that anymore. And the whole love your neighbor as yourself, like I love my neighbors, and I love all the people that the Lord has brought into my life. Like I want to, just be around them all the time, and I want to bring them food, and and I want to hang out with them, and I want to do all the things and talk to them all the time and text them and send them funny memes and reels on Instagram. Like I love these people so much. But sometimes I think like it, if I don't love myself, does that mean that I don't truly love them? Or how can I reciprocate that love back to myself? Like I don't I don't know. I don't know. Um this just kind of goes back to my episode about accepting God's like love, right? And I talked about how, growing up the way that we felt love was just through what we could do, right? Like what we could offer to these people. Like how can we make their lives easier so that they can show us some love? And then that's how I feel loved, right? And it comes down to just even now, with my husband, like how can I show him that I love him, right? Like I give him my love language, which is acts of service. Like I make sure that the house is clean, and I make sure that the laundry's done, and I make sure that there's food on the table, and he has lunch, and he has all these things. And that is how I'm showing him like, hey, I love you. You have a clean home to come to, right? And so with my neighbors, with my friends, like I want to be like, hey, let me watch your kid for you for a second so you can have a breather, and let me cook dinner for you, let me bring you some coffee. Like that is how I show love to other people. But how can I show myself that same love, and honestly that same grace? Like I don't know how to give myself grace. I don't know how to cut myself some slack. I don't know how to stop being so overly critical of myself. I'm not overly critical of other people or my husband or anyone. Like, I'm not. So, like, why is it that I'm still attacking myself? And why is it that I'm still just so mean and so cruel and so harsh to myself? How can I speak kinder words to myself? When people see me, I want them to see Jesus. And I want people to see his love through me. Proverbs 31:30 says, "Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised." I want to be a God-fearing woman, and I don't want to be so just involved in outward appearance, and I don't want to see myself and criticize myself over what I look or what I'm wearing. Like I don't want to do that anymore. And I know that this is, a little bit harder for me. I don't want to make excuses, but it's a little bit harder because I do deal with the social anxiety aspect of things. And social anxiety is the fear of judgment, and the fear of perceived opinions that others have of you. And that's hard because my head tells me that people are thinking or people are assuming or people are talking about me when the reality of it is no one is. But that is what my brain tells me 24/7. And it's a battle that I fight almost every day. If you are someone that is highly critical of yourself, just know that God loves you and that God created you to be and to look exactly how He wanted to. And He did this for His purpose. And He did this for you to be able to glorify Him here on earth. We need to stop being so cruel to ourselves. It's very easy to be loving and caring towards others. And it's time that we start to be loving and caring towards ourselves. I'm going to go ahead and pray. So if you want to bow your heads and close your eyes, I will pray over this. Father, first I want to thank you. Thank you for creating me. And thank you for creating everyone else that is listening to this podcast. And Lord, I honestly ask for forgiveness. Forgive me for criticizing your work, and forgive me for judging your work. Lord, you made me out of your own image, and I thank you for that, and I appreciate that, and I'm so glad that you did. Father, I just pray that you help soften my heart towards myself, and that you help soften my heart towards the way that you made me look, the way that you made me feel. And I pray for everyone else who is listening to this. I pray that you can soften their hearts as well. I pray that you can help us stop being so mean and so cruel to ourselves. Because in the end, it just means that we're being mean and cruel to you. And I don't want to do that. You have been so good to me. And I know that you have been so good to everyone else. Lord, I just thank you for your patience with me. Because I know that this is not going to be something easy. And I just thank you for your patience, and that regardless of how many times I screw up every day, you still love me. I pray for everyone who is listening to this right now, that they can feel your comfort and your presence as they go about throughout their week. And I pray this in your Son's mighty name. Amen. Today, I am learning to let go of my own criticism and my own judgments of myself. I'm learning to let go that I need to look a certain way to play a certain part. I'm learning to let go of my judgments over my own appearance. If you've stuck around this long, thank you for tuning in to Letting Go of Her podcast. If you'd like to subscribe or leave a review, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, don't forget to go over and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can listen to the podcast, or you can also see a video of it on YouTube/Letting Go of Her podcast. I am learning to accept that you created me exactly how you felt was fit for me. And I'm learning to accept that I am the way that I am because of you. Because I am a new creation.